Okay, so what is important to know? Probably one of the most important things when we are talking about toxic body and healing process. Since one of the major reasons for our toxicity is we are not hydrating well enough, so it's lack of plasma, blood plasma. And as I have explained, a lot of toxins are going to be embedded in a tissue for lack of not being able to cleanse. When we start hydrating, one of the most common problems is water retention. When we are young, we don't have that many toxins there, so this doesn't seem to be a big issue. But older we are, or more chronic issues we have, this means we have been more dehydrated and more toxic. As soon as we start hydrating, the water retention appears. Now, again, doctors, we are not told the truth about the water retention, about anything really. So we do not understand it correctly, and we always associate it with problems of elimination of water. So must be kidneys. Okay, kidneys are not functioning well, but also we noticed, well, but we are more toxic, so the liver is not functioning well. So always we associate this with kidney and liver problems. Of course, who suffers from water retention? Usually are the sickly, are the elderly, because they are already highly dehydrated with very condensed, very thick blood, toxic blood, and so is a toxicity of the tissue and on the cellular level. And because of this, they also suffer from edema. And they may even have high blood pressure, or they may not, but they will have edema because those two are not related in a way of being projected in equal way. So it doesn't mean that, oh, you have high blood pressure or you are going to have water retention. Not necessarily, but very likely, because we are talking about high toxicity of a tissue and dehydration, toxicity of the cells, dehydrated cells, which make problem of blood vessels being elastic. So yes, there is a relation, but not that one influences the other. It's that both of them come from the same culprit, which is the toxic blood. And this video is going to be specifically talking about this problem of water retention, which better is to say toxic lymph retention, because the liquid that we retain is lymph. We don't have, if we would retain blood, well, we would then be red and we would call it inflammation. Since there are no red blood cells usually involved, it is lymph. And it is toxic. So I have explained many times why water retention occurs, but since we are now in this natural healing and we have gone through these 5 previous videos explaining the process, I just feel it important to address again the water retention problem. I should probably talk about high blood pressure as well here, but you know, there are so many videos I made about it. But water retention, still people don't get it, especially doctors don't get it well, because again, we have to shift the whole understanding that was embedded in our brain. Now when we realize it's false, well, we have to replace it with the correct information. So I have explained, when you have a low blood plasma, the body cannot produce more urine or keep a stool soft, because this moisture comes from your blood. This is what you are excreting, and the volume of urine that you urinate, that much less is your volume of blood. This, we never think about it, but this is how it works. You still have the same amount of blood cells, you still have the same amount of proteins and hormones and whatever has to be there, but you have less plasma. The blood gets a little bit more condensed. I have mentioned in one of my articles, when I was talking about misunderstanding from Ioannis Argenis about salt, and he's saying that comes in Croatian language deva, but in English camel. Thank you very much. Some shorts in my brain. So camel have these humps. They are fat deposits. Well, Arjun said that when they use the fat in metabolic process comes energy and production of water. Nonsense. Okay, but how come that those animals can last a month without drinking water? Because they are given salt, and they can drink like 40 liters of water in one shot. So they will dilute their blood. And then when their excrement, they are trying to save all the liquid, so their excrement is dry. Camels have a dry excrement, and they urinate very little. They also eat very little. Okay, so they do not have need to eliminate much toxins because they don't produce many. So they urinate little, and they defecate dry stool. So they lose little plasma, and they can be long time living with blood fairly well hydrated, since little by little, they are losing the blood plasma. Blood is getting thicker and thicker and thicker, and there will come time then they will have to drink again, replenish the lost blood plasma. So with us, when our blood is very dehydrated, we cannot afford to lose more plasma to eliminate toxins by urinating, so body is depositing them in a tissue. This is how this robot is programmed what to do. And especially, we accumulate a lot of this toxin underneath the skin. So now when we start drinking plasma, we start hydrating. And now as you're hydrating, your body is evaluating what is more necessary at the moment, eliminate toxins and lose plasma, or toxins are not so bad, so let's just hydrate more before we do this. And you may drink and not urinate any more than urinate before. And it is not so easy to get diarrhea going if you are low on blood plasma. This is why I say you have to drink a lot during the day, not only in the morning, to keep hydrating, to satisfy the need for blood plasma, so the body can then use the surplus and start eliminating a little stronger through mucosal tissue, causing diarrhea or even vomiting, nausea. It all depends on the level of toxicity. So now when we start drinking plasma, depending on how toxic we are not only hydrating the blood, but we are also producing more lymph, because blood as it goes into tissue with the smaller and smaller blood vessels, finally it goes into capillary system, and blood cannot penetrate, only the lymph penetrates, only the plasma. And this is basically every organ has a parts where only lymph can go, but most of it we find underneath the skin. Because why? The skin does not only protect us, but we absorb through skin. And whatever we absorb has to be checked for toxicity. So it goes into lymphatic system and is checked by lymph nodes, and then could be eliminated right out through sweating, or it is going to be proceeding, going, finally joining into a vein close to the heart and entering to our blood. Since blood toxicity is always being controlled, every parameters of the body, we have sensors and everything is controlled. So if blood is already toxic and now toxic lymph is coming, well, it will be restricted in how much of this lymph will be allowed to come into the blood, not to make things worse. So if you have toxic blood and toxic lymph is coming, well, the flow and joining this lymph into the blood is going to be slower. So when you are hydrating and you are producing more lymph, and the lymph goes into toxic tissue, becomes toxic, now it cannot rapidly join the blood, because now blood is toxic, lymph is toxic. Well, the circulation stops and we start having buildup of lymph. And this, you see it, puffiness of the face, puffiness of the body, subcutaneously underneath the skin, all this starts puffing out, getting tight, because now you are retaining toxic plasma. And you may be cleansing, because now you are bringing plasma. So your body is going to cleanse, you will urinate, but remember, body is not conscious. So it cannot evaluate and decide, okay, I better get rid of this. But it is programmed. And if lymph is more toxic than the blood, but blood is also very toxic, then the joining of the toxic lymph is going to be slowed down, just like on a drip. So it does not produce huge problems. This is the programming. Finally, this is why I say you should strive always to get diarrhea, because through diarrhea you cleanse the blood much faster than through kidneys. And although you also waste a lot of plasma, but also much stronger toxic load is being eliminated. So when you finally achieve a diarrhea, you cleanse your blood much faster, and you are drinking clean plasma. So you are bringing clean elements into the blood, but toxic lymph now can enter a little faster because blood is less toxic. Again, it's all sensors and programs running this. So the cleaner is the blood, the faster lymphatic flow is going to be allowing more toxic lymph to go to be cleansed. Unfortunately, the toxins are not embedded only in lymphatic tissue. They are embedded everywhere. So as your blood is cleansing, the tissue is releasing toxins into the blood, so this can be cleansed. And it all impedes the speed of lymphatic cleanse. And your retention of this toxic lymph remains. You always know that you take a rest, you lay down, especially when you sleep. In a sleep, we cleanse much more, and we have to get up a couple times at night or more to urinate and even have diarrhea in a heavy detox, because we are eliminating stuff from the blood, allowing then faster flow of lymph and cleaning of this lymphatic tissue. And you may wake up in the morning and you don't have edema, you don't have water retention. And during the day, as you start working, all of a sudden you start getting puffy again. Why? Because the cleansing is always slower during the day, and your blood is getting more toxic, slows down the lymphatic offload. And especially when you are drinking a lot of plasma, you are increasing level of blood hydration, but at the same time you are producing more lymph, which gets toxic in the toxic tissue, and it's cyclical. It just it's like putting brake on it, you know, and not allowing it to flow. Sometimes, now mind you, these toxins are not life-threatening, but they are abundant, so they do serve as a resistors for energy, for electric flow, makes us feel tired, loss of concentration, blurry vision, memory goes wacky. It's all because of the toxic blood and slower flow of electricity. Now, during the day, brain is way more active, it needs more fuel, and it is more sensitive on this low electric flow, low energy flow, and giving more problems. We are more aware of this. But at night, since brain does not have to produce thoughts, it doesn't waste nearly as much energy as during the daytime, and more energy can be used for cleansing. So the cleansing is always faster, and reparation is faster during the time when we are asleep. More and more people are complaining of how puffy they are. I never had retention problem, and now you see salt is no good. Well, you never had cleansing issues because you never were cleansing. So you have to just look at it from accurately. You know, yes, because of you are drinking plasma, you are starting having water retention, but not because salt is retaining water, it's because of toxin is retaining water. Okay, if you are not toxic, you can drink as much plasma as you want and you are not going to have any water retention. So, and you also may not take any salt and have water retention all over the place because you are simply extremely toxic. Toxic blood, toxic tissue, you almost stop the lymphatic circulation. No cleansing of lymph. So, if your tissue is very toxic and you have to drink a lot of plasma because you have to achieve diarrhea so you can cleanse the blood. Otherwise, you are like in a rush hour. Every intersection is blocked in every way because everything is trying to get out and nothing is moving. So sometimes we have to look for medicinal remedy to help us in this situation, especially when water retention becomes problematic. It is problematic, very problematic, if you have water retention in the lungs. Now, why would you have it in the lungs and not underneath the skin? Well, because you had problems with your lungs during the life. They are more toxic. Being it from the healthy things they get into your body, or being it from the healthy air that comes from spraying from the planes, or just being in environment with a lot of dust, a lot of pollution, a lot of sawdust, depending on your work, what you do. If you are working in a mine, all this dust inhaling, this all embeds in your tissue, has to be cleansed. But we never were told about cleansing. So now when you start hydrating, your lung tissue may be extremely toxic and causes production of phlegm, but also is causing water retention. And you may have buildup of liquid in your chest cavity, which then when you lay down interferes with your breathing. You cannot breathe, you gurgle. So you may have to sleep sitting, inclined position, so the water settles down and you can actually breathe. Well, in this case, you have to force the liquid out. The best thing is, if it is in one area, that it's siphoned out. But I don't particularly like to go to hospital because I never know what these 007 agents are going to inject in me. So we can also use help of diuretic. Now, how does that work? If the retention is not extremely problematic, but you would like to deal with it, you can use salt also to suck the liquid out of your body. Now, I'm talking about hydrating. Now I'm talking about dehydrating using the same thing. Well, yes, but you use salt differently. Now you have to take salt as a diuretic, and I made video on this. I'm just quickly in this video putting all these things together, just regarding the retention of liquid. So if you put big amount of salt, or let's say 20 grams per 1 liter of water, and then you drink it, now you created huge surplus. You put way too many minerals into your body because your body will absorb it. And now it comes into the lymphatic system and it starts seeping into the blood. And it's way too many minerals, so your body is forced to go into cleanse, to take them out. But there is not enough blood plasma for this big amount to come out. So the body is going to also allow some of this toxic lymph to be released into the blood for additional availability of plasma, even though that plasma is toxic, but it is less problematic than this huge surplus of minerals that has to be eliminated. Because yes, too much salt is going to harm us. Body knows it, so it will eliminate it. And if you are not bringing enough plasma or water, because you have put way too much salt in, but we know that blood has approximately 9 grams of salt. Now you are putting 20 grams or 25 grams. So there is plenty, body has to eliminate. It has to use plasma to eliminate, and it is going to reach for the plasma that is toxic in your lymphatic system. Now this, since it's not very strong toxin, it's just surplus, this may and works marginally. If this doesn't produce desired effect, if you need to remove way more plasma, also when you do this, you will be very thirsty. After you drink so salty plasma, you will be thirsty, you cannot drink. Because this is when you don't drink, you are forcing the body to use the stored water-retained liquid to release it into the blood so it can be used to flush this surplus of these minerals and causes dehydration effect. If this is not strong enough, you can drink less salty plasma after you already urinate and have diarrhea, because you have now eliminated what body was allowed to eliminate with the the available lymph or plasma in the blood, then you can drink less salty plasma just to rebuild the lost plasma through diarrhea and urination. Because you still have to keep giving your fresh plasma, you have to keep cleansing the tissue. So it's not about just getting the swelling down, getting the water retention out. You have to get these toxic elements out, which means you have to keep forcing plasma into it and plasma out. Plasma in and plasma out to flush it out. And very often you have to reach for some stronger diuretic. There are some natural diuretics, which you can always check supplement stores, but they may not be also strong enough. Even watermelon is diuretic, okay? But it's not strong enough. Celery is diuretic, not strong enough. Coffee is strong diuretic, but also is toxic for nerves, so this is really not the way to go. Lasix is much less problematic. So you can buy furosemide, less Lasix, and have Lasix. Because now it's toxic, it's not neurotoxic, it doesn't go into the brain, and the body, the mechanism goes, wow, this has to go out. And it's definitely way less toxic than, or way more toxic than the retained liquid, retained lymph. So the retained lymph will be allowed to go into circulation just to be the supporting mechanism of plasma to be used to get out this toxin that we have received through diuretic. Alcohol also helps here, but then again it's also neurotoxic, so creating, same as with garlic. Okay, also diuretic, but also affects the brain. It goes to brain, blood-brain barrier. It's not good way to help the body, because you are poisoning it on the other side too much. So this is why, again, pharmaceutical or supplement remedies can be used targeted, and you are not on them for a month. You use them for a couple days, retention goes down, you stop. And you keep hydrating. Even while you're taking Lasix, you keep hydrating, because you have to keep flushing. And when swelling goes down, when retained liquid is less or gone from your side, you don't at least see it or feel it, you stop with Lasix. And then if it becomes problematic again take Lasix 1 day or 2 days, then stop. So this way you are not keeping your body poisoned all the time. You just use it for desired effect. That's all. So it's very important to understand how the body works and how we can help it with medicinal remedies. There is place for them, but not the way doctors are doing it, not even the alternative. You know, I see people having their cabinetry full of supplements they use daily. You are poisoning yourself. Understanding how the body works is the most important, and this is why I'm making these videos, because it's very difficult to reprogram doctor. So here, everybody can reprogram themselves. Just learn the truth and implement it, and then help people around you. The most important thing is to understand, do not be afraid of salt, do not be afraid of plasma. Even if you have water retention, this is not because you are drinking plasma, it is because you are toxic. And drinking plasma allows you to start cleansing these toxins, but in between, one of the symptoms is going to be water retention. That's all that's to it. I believe that this is the most important thing to be said about this problem. And if your blood pressure goes up, don't worry about it. Nobody dies from increased blood pressure. This is all fear-mongering by doctors, scaring people. I know plenty of people who didn't even know that their blood pressure was, I don't know, 17 over 105, 170 over 105. They don't even know about it until they have it checked. And they even don't have any symptoms from it. Blood pressure does not cause any problems, but body can be sensitive to increased blood pressure if it has already inflammation going on. I don't know if that's going to be necessary to address in separate videos, especially about blood pressure, but I did it many times, so I'm sure that there is some video. Let me know if you find this to be important. Anyway, so now you know better about the water retention. This is very important to understand, not to be afraid of drinking plasma and having water retention at the same time, and continue drinking plasma and diuretic together. It is important to understand this. Thank you for listening, and let's keep exploring and learning. God bless us all. Namaste.